listeners, you are tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey.
Hello, everybody.
And we are broadcasting from 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation. We're here every Tuesday from 7 to 8 Pacific time. And we, as well as broadcasting on CIVL, we also live stream on our Facebook group, which is called Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group, and on my YouTube channel. So if you search for Dr. Leslie Phillips, you can find us there. Then you can see what we look like, as well as...
Very funny.
If you're new to Unlocking Your Truth, if you've never listened to us before, we're a talk show, and the topics that we talk about are under the broad umbrella of metaphysics and spirituality.
All about unlocking your truth, right?
Unlocking your truth, yeah. Finding the core of your inner being and expressing it outwardly. Unlocking your truth. And of course, one of our most favorite things to talk about are psychic abilities, because that actually is part of unlocking your truth. Your psychic abilities are how you communicate as spirit. And as you unlock your truth, you discover who you truly are as spirit, as apart from the surface body personality level.
Absolutely.
So for tonight's topic, I'm choosing a topic that one of our listeners suggested. And because the listener suggested it and other people said, oh yes, I'd like to listen to that too. So I'm going to read out what she said, and then we will, that's what we will structure our show around. So it's from Kelly. And so hi to Kelly. She's interested to hear a discussion on living consciously and what does it look like. And she says for you in your daily life, so she might be talking about me, I suppose. How does it compare to someone who doesn't? I'm interested in the transition that I have gone through and am going through, and what I see in others in terms of, I guess, some of them being asleep and, I've lost my place in her thing, and embedded in the physical world, to others who are awakening, and the conceptual understanding of spirit to embodiment and higher learning. And if we are really living not only our soul's truth, but also in a higher vibration, and what does that mean for our thoughts, feelings, actions, and how they must or will change. So I thought what we could talk about is, we can talk about what is the difference between living consciously and living unconsciously, or what is the difference between an awakened human and a human who is not awakened. And we'll weave in a little bit about psychic abilities, because I know everybody loves to talk about that.
Sounds good to me.
So I can approach this from a few different angles. And one thing I would also say, Kelly, is all of my psychic development courses are all structured around helping people to become conscious and live their lives in a conscious way. And so I'm just going to start by referencing actually what we teach in my Unlocking Your Intuition course, because it gives a really good overview of some of the differences in terms of what it's like to live consciously and not. And then we'll go more deeply into it. So someone who's living consciously may be more mindful, may be more present, living in the moment, living in present time. And they probably have a spiritual practice that works for them, like a meditation practice. And the reason that that is important, there's several reasons. Life on this planet can be very, very challenging, even for the most advanced spiritual masters. So having a spiritual practice helps you to continuously and consciously rebalance yourself as you go in and out of balance. So I guess what I'm saying is that becoming a conscious human isn't this ultimate nirvana that you reach and then you're on the pinnacle of the mountaintop and you say, I made it and I'm going to stay here forever, because you're in a body and you are on planet Earth. And planet Earth is a planet of duality. Everything has an opposite. And part of our experience here is that we're constantly moving in between these polar opposites. That's what allows us to have free will and make choices. It's also what allows us to get terribly out of balance. So I believe someone who is a more conscious, awakened human has an understanding of how to stay in balance, even though they're in this very, very challenging physical world. So my way of doing that is through the spiritual techniques that I use in my daily life and that I teach all of my students as well. So that's one of the things.
I have a quick comment from Lori about that. She said, I used to
Sure.
be so asleep and now I'm reeling in the aftermath.
We can talk about that as we go through this discussion. Thanks for the comment.
And also Tracy wants you to explain free will a little bit better, or a little deeper maybe.
Free will. So we are aspects of source energy. Some people call that God or divine consciousness. And if you want to get biblical, it says created in his image. Well, just that what that means is we are creator beings. We create our own reality, and we create our own reality by either consciously or unconsciously choosing it. So some of the ways that we can consciously choose it, we could get into talking about the law of attraction and manifestation techniques. That's part of it, is, you know, knowing what you want to create and setting your intentions and all of that. The other part of it is by balancing and managing the energy in your energy field, right? Because you attract what you are. So if you're a conscious awakened human, you understand all of that. And you understand how to deliberately create your reality, and you choose what you want over what you don't want, right? You choose what you prefer over what you don't prefer. So you make choices and then you see the results. And again, that's another facet of time-space reality. We make some kind of a shift, then it takes a little bit of time for the results to be reflected back at us. And we go, oh, that was a good choice, or it wasn't. And we can change our mind. Okay, as opposed to the idea of fate, where everything is decided for you and you're just living this preordained existence. So that's my concept of free will, is that we are here. We have the capability to consciously choose the life we want. Those who are unconscious are still creating their life, but they're doing it unconsciously, and they might get things that they don't necessarily want. And that's where having this meditation practice can come in handy, because then, and developing your psychic abilities, because then as an awakened human, you can see and feel and experience and know what you've stored in your energy field, and you can heal it and you can change it. Okay, so if you're unconscious, you don't make the connection between I don't know, let's say you're a very judgmental person, or you hate people, or you criticize people all the time, and you carry that vibration around with you, then you're going to unconsciously create more experiences that deliver people and events that you can judge. But if you were a conscious, awakened human, you would observe yourself. You would be able to be the neutral observer of yourself and what is showing up in your reality, and consciously change it. And so that maybe takes me on to another point, which is that another point is that a conscious awakened human realizes they are spirit. An unconscious human really believes they are their body. You know, they are their body, they are their mind, they are their emotions, they are their sex drive. They're very living in just the pure physical experience, where an awakened human would be living in an experience where, yes, they realize they're in the physical world, but they're also connected with the non-physical reality and higher aspects of their consciousness. So let's talk about a few of the other things that might be different between an awakened human and an unawakened human. Most humans are not in their bodies, which sounds like a strange thing to say, but I talk about that all the time. Most humans are not really fully owning their physical body, their physical system. So they're ungrounded, they're disassociated from the body. The body has a consciousness of its own. And unless you are grounded and present within the body, then it will be the body that runs the show rather than you, the divine spiritual entity. And what does that look like? And you will recognize these things as I go through them. It looks like, you know, you get that thing with your mind is going round and round and round and round and round. Random thoughts you don't even recognize. Where did that come from? Okay, that's an unawakened human. That's the body level. That's the, you know, the mind, the physical brain dominating the person's experience of reality. An awakened human is able to be the neutral observer of their thoughts and is actually able to quiet their mind and silence their thoughts so that it is the pure light of spirit shining through. And so it's clearing that filter of the mind chatter. That's another difference. Another difference is they're able to be above their emotions. And when I say that, that doesn't mean ignoring your emotions, but it means basically placing the mind and the emotions where they belong as aspects of the body. Okay, and so being above the emotions so that you are not pulled into emotional dramas and emotional overwhelm. Not ignoring your body and its signals either. Okay, so an awakened human is able to be above these very dramatic things that can be very dramatic about the body and the physical experience. They're able to separate themselves from it, not ignore it, but be in charge of it. Okay, so that you're not having an emotional meltdown that is going to interfere with your reality. An awakened human is in a state of non-resistance and flow. An unawakened human or an unconscious human is in a state of resistance constantly. You know, and hence, you know, the comment about judgment. So many people are just full of judgments, and anytime you have a judgment, that is it's a form of resistance that is preventing the energy from flowing. They're also tending to be in the lower end of the emotional scale, you know, like fear, pain, trauma, hate, and all of those. And those are, the energy in your system will flow very differently if those are the predominant energies in your space versus if you have healed those, removed them from your system, and are in a state of joy and love. Okay, so an awakened human is less attached to the problems and challenges that can occur in daily life. And because they know that they can deal with it. Oh, I'm seeing that Corey's got his hand up.
Can I go to the washroom? No, Lori says, is conscious awakening also known as a midlife crisis? LOL.
Well, it could be experienced that way, but that is just but it doesn't have to be. So our spiritual growth can be effortless, can be easy, can be enjoyable, or it can be extremely challenging. And that's really up to you in terms of how much you resist your growth. And I would say if you resist your growth, if you don't really know yourself as spirit very well, then you may create a dramatic transformational experience. But if you're somebody who is dedicated to your spiritual growth, who meditates, and who heals themselves, then it can be a pleasant experience. Looks like Corey's got his hand up again.
Bridie says, I once believed that I didn't really have to do much or really be here on earth as destiny would choose for me. Through parts of awakening came an awareness that my soul had a core purpose, destiny that with choice, free will, I can make choices that align to this or deter from me the path. Forever presented with infinite possibilities of choices. Where where comes the free will? Ebb and flow comes when my choices lead back to that soul core truth and purpose. More challenging lessons come when I take the path that leads away from it to trigger me to get back to the aligned path, but maybe with lessons that promote growth on the way, such as the other role of duality, polarity experiences as a human. Polarity experiences as a human. Does duality and polarity have different meanings, or are they much the description of the same thing?
So first of all, thank you very much.
Yes.
Really, really excellent commentary. And yes,
It is very
an
good.
awakened human knows what it feels like to be aligned with source energy, can recognize when they go out of alignment, and can bring themselves back into alignment.
So, Dr. Leslie, can you leave the rest of your comment on that one till after the break?
I can, yes.
Okay, let's do
We'll
that then.
answer Bridie's question after the break. Listeners, you've been tuning into Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey. We're going to go for a few messages and we'll be back shortly.
Back in. Yes. Okay, let's go back.
Welcome back, listeners. You're tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey. And tonight's topic, broadly speaking, is what's the difference between an awakened human, someone who's consciously awake and aware as spirit, versus an unconscious, unawakened human? And before the break, we had a question from Bridie, which was asking, is duality and polarity the same thing? And I would say yes. Another word we could say is opposites. I use them sort of interchangeably anyway. It's like everything on earth has an opposite, you know. Fear is the opposite of love, for example. It's the polar opposite. The duality is the fear and the love, for example. So yeah, I don't have a different definition for those things. I think that they're words that we can use interchangeably. So I'm going to also just refer a little bit to my book that just came out, because there's a lot of information actually that addresses this question in the book. And I'm going to refer to two different parts within the book. And one part is because we've been covering on the show sort of like the early chapters in the book. And there's a chapter on the human energy field. And at the end of that chapter, it talks about kind of like the human awakening journey and the things that crop up that keep us from our alignment. And so I'll see if I can just very briefly refer to them. And one of the things, and it's in the course that I was talking about as well, is perfectionism. And we could use the word perfectionism, expectations, competition, unworthiness. They're all sort of facets of the same topic. And all of those things keep you from acceptance. of yourself and other people, right? So if you feel like you need to be perfect, you need to achieve something, you need to attain something, you need to be the best, then you are not acknowledging what is and how you are right here, right now. And you're not accepting and loving yourself as you are right here, right now. But that is one of the biggest, most rife challenges or issues in humanity right now is competition, right? The world is run off of competition. We're trained to be in competition with one another. And it comes from the basic animalistic survival instinct, but it has been translated to everything. So one of the biggest challenges for students in terms of, if you're, for example, taking classes to develop your psychic abilities, is having expectations of what you're supposed to be doing and what it's supposed to look like. And we plaster these expectations all over our lives. And so I would say someone who is an awakened human has learned to accept themselves completely as they are, and to notice when they're not doing it, and is able to dissolve the judgments, expectations, and perfectionism, so that they and realize that they're exactly where they're meant to be and exactly how they're meant to be right here, right now. So that's one of the big ones. Another one, again, is life challenges. And again, I'm referring to the chapter that's talking about the auric field. And because we store these energies in our auric field. So life challenges. So we are born pristine, not always pristine. Sometimes we bring in some karma, but we are born, and then we go through life experience. The adults around us tell us this is the way the world works. Money doesn't grow on trees. People like us can only expect this much, and whatever the programming is within your family. So you get the parental programming, the cultural programming, maybe you get the religious programming, and it all piles a bunch of limits on you in terms of how this reality operates. Then you might have some painful experiences. Anything from, I don't know, your parents telling you off and giving you a smacked bottom that you find, traumatizing, to being abused in some way. And and that then teaches us something about physical reality, and we go, oh, this is an awful place. I believe this is an awful place. I believe these are the things. This is how it works here, maybe to survive, I need to control my environment, or I need to control other people, or I need to compete with other people. Or maybe you learn you're unworthy through those life experiences. And as soon as you've had the first few of those, you've plastered them into your energy field. And if you don't clear them out and deal with them immediately, it's like a little signal that's going, pain, trauma, fear, and the universe will reflect that back at you. Then you'll get another experience and you go, oh, holy heck, it's true. This is what the world is about. And on and on and on and on. And actually, then you get less and less awakened because you're covered with this filter of beliefs that are out of alignment with who you truly are and out of alignment with source energy. So an awakened human has, at least in our day and age, has grown into an awareness of that and how that is within the system and has healed it, or is in the process of healing it. I mean, one day we may have a reality on Earth where it's different than that, but at the moment, that's the way it is, And so another difference between an unawakened human and an awakened human is an awakened human has healed themselves, is healing themselves, and cleaning out all the layers of illusion so that they can conduct their own reality. and create the reality they want. And they realize that maybe some of the people and the influences in their lives, they did the best they could, but they were not healed themselves. So that's another difference. And I think there's one more thing that's in the book. Well, it's related, which is limiting beliefs. And and so in that chapter of the book, then it starts to talk about, well, how do you heal yourself from that? How do you do that healing process? And there's actually 3 sections in the book, and the 3rd section of the book, there's 5 chapters, which are teaching you meditation techniques that help you to heal yourself, help you to clean out those things that are blocking you from being the one who can balance energy and live a conscious life, teaching you how to be consciously awake and aware within your physical body. So let me see if I can think of some more, seeing as the topic is that what's the difference between an awakened and an unawakened human. An awakened human, sorry, I'll just say one more. An awakened human creates consciously as spirit through the physical body. And that means they create without effort. Okay, so they're not in effort. Whereas most humans are in effort, and they're operating from the body's reality, and the body always uses effort. Sorry, Corey, what was there?
No, I just got a comment from Jess, which was very, very interesting. She said, I dreamt of you the other day. I was asking you questions and you said, buy my book. I said, I'd read it. And you said, not this one.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yes, interesting.
I take it Nathan said, yep, about that comment, because I said it was interesting. So
yeah, well, I'm sure there will be more books. Yeah. And in fact, this topic that we're talking about today would make a really good topic for a book, I think.
Yeah, so Azalea as well, she commented, she said, what can I do to awake? What would be the steps to do that? So I said that we covered that a little bit. I think you already covered some of that too, didn't you?
Yeah, and I know, Azalea, you wanted to take my Unlock Your Intuition course, and you know, that gives you some fantastic steps to take. But in the meantime, I know that you've purchased the book. And so I would say when you read the book, there will be some steps that you can take that will be made very clear to you. And actually, the book comes with a reader's gift from the author, which is a course. Basically, the course is a meditation based on the teachings in those 5 chapters at the end. So you get to read about the techniques that you can practice to help you come more into your body, to help you be the neutral observer of your thoughts and your emotions, to help you start to activate your psychic abilities, to heal yourself, to clear your energy field. You can read about it in the book, but you actually also get a 5-part course that will give you 5 meditations that you can sit and practice and learn. So that's what I would recommend for you, that it's hard to lay out the full answer to that in the context of the podcast and the radio show, but I definitely have done it in the book. So, you know, I don't know whether you've received it yet, but I hope you will receive it soon. So hopefully that helps.
I just wanted to make a comment about the book, Dr. Leslie, and the fact that you bring it up quite often, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea. It's not that you're necessarily trying to quote unquote sell or push the book. It's because the publisher, because of the issues that we're having out in the world today, the publisher's not covering any not setting up any talks or any book signings, and all the bookstores are closed now. So the message has to get out somehow, and that's why we're talking about the book quite often.
Well, but it also honestly, genuinely is that I've poured my heart and soul into writing that book, and I want to help people. And that book provides so much of my philosophy, if you want to call it a philosophy. You know, and I know not everyone can afford to take my courses, but I think everyone can afford the book. And the book is, you know, I sound like I'm tooting my own horn. You know, I was going to say the book is brilliant, but it's brilliant because it lays it out for you. It lays it out for you in terms of what you can do, and to help you understand your, as well as what we're talking about today, it helps you understand your psychic abilities. It helps you understand your, you know, psychic experiences you might have had, helps you start to develop them and take control of them as well. And also takes you through a process where you can start to connect your the challenges that you've had in your life, the experiences that you've had of your psychic abilities with your life purpose. And I know that, you know, from when we first started the podcast, we invited people to send their questions, and we got thousands. And about 45% of all the questions was, why am I here? What's my life purpose? So everybody is yearning to really feel that alignment with source energy and that knowledge of why they're here. And that's actually where the book came from, is because I wanted to help people to find their purpose. It's like a roadmap to help you to do that. So
and thank you, Jess. Jess says that you should promote it. We value your teaching and your work.
Thank you, Jess.
Dream some more, Jess. Dream some more. At least 5 more books or something.
Try and catch what the title is next time.
Actually, what's really funny is that on the Facebook side, I'm getting the book inverted backwards. So just to let everybody, it's not written backwards.
Actually, that reminds me, because if you're listening on the radio, I didn't even mention the title of the book. The title of the book is Intuition and Chakras, How to Increase Your Energy, no, How to Increase Your Psychic Development Through Energy. So Intuition and Chakras, published by Llewellyn. And it's available from Llewellyn, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and IndieBound as well.
Yeah, I have. I put the link down. So let's see what Brady says. When I was having an accelerated awakening time, you use an analogy that really clicked in why all of what you're saying in referencing to the book is so important. About the energy you harbor while awakening can go outward as a bubble, and bubbles pop. So as it's happening, and always, it's important to use the techniques such as in your book to be a flowing conduit of that energy. That's really cool. That's great,
It's
Brady.
true, you know, because you want your energy and your information flowing through your system. And I've seen lots of people where it's actually just bouncing off. It's bouncing off because of their lack of belief, you know, or their misbelief. And so they're not allowing themselves to fully be and express who they are. And so, absolutely, thank you.
Especially at this time in the world. I mean, it's so easy to have that bubble, that awakened bubble, as she called it, just pop. You know, like it's so easy with all the negativity and the negative media and the fear and the pain and the, you know, the media hype.
That's another reason. I mean, so let's talk about that. Like, how does an awakened human behave given the chaos in the world? And because the challenge is to lose yourself, to go out of alignment. If you merge with the mass consciousness fear, you know, and there's judgmentalism out there, isn't there, and finger pointing, and there's a lot of death, right? Or we're being informed about people leaving the planet. And so, you know, it could be very easy for someone to spiral down into negative thoughts, low vibration emotions, merge with the mass consciousness and sit in that sea of lower vibration energy, instead of, so how do you be the higher vibration light of consciousness that you are, and be true to yourself and your path and your soul in the face of that? And so, what my book Intuition and Chakras is providing is a roadmap to teach you how to do that, how to stay above all of that, and how to heal yourself.
Well, it's time for another break, Dr. Leslie. It's just going zip by tonight.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll be back after these messages. Welcome back, listeners. You are tuning into Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey. And tonight's show we've been having a discussion on the difference between living consciously versus not living consciously. And I'm just going to go back to the original request that we had to talk about this and see if I've ticked all the boxes of what she was asking about. Yeah, she's interested in that transition, that process, and how it happens for people. And we had a comment from Laurie about that, didn't we? So we did talk about that everyone has their own unique path, and it can be as challenging and traumatic or the opposite of that, depending on the person and how they are creating their reality. And the last part of her thing was, if we are really living not only our soul's truth, but also in a higher vibration. And what I would say about that is back to the thing that I said about balance. An awakened human is conscious of themselves and their energy. And as the more you heal yourself, the more you clear your energy field, the easier it is for you to spot that you're out of alignment. But really, anytime that you're feeling off in any way, you may be out of alignment. And so, how do you know if you're really living your soul's truth? You can feel it, you can sense it. You will feel in the flow, you will feel connected if you are, and you will not feel that way if you are not. And she said, what does it mean for our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and how they will change? So we talked about that you will be the master of your thoughts. You will be able to be the neutral observer of your thoughts. You will be able to, instead of operating from that logical mind, you will be able to operate as that spiritual essence. Okay. And so anytime you have a thought, that's not you, spirit. That's your mind, right? Spirit doesn't think in language. Spirit doesn't think. Spirit is and creates. So, and feelings, well, you will still have, while you're in the body, you will always have feelings. But as an awakened human, you will realize that those feelings are how your body is communicating to you in terms of the reality that you are embedding it within. And so you will use the feelings as as a feedback loop, really, to communicate with your body so that you can help your body deal with situations, and so that you can help it to feel better if you need to.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've seen and actually experienced in the past as well with regards to myself was, when you've become awakened, not only do you understand that, but other people see it and feel it as well. And you can see and feel how they feel about you.
Yes, yeah. And sometimes they'll be in competition with you.
Yeah,
and
that
that's
too. Yeah.
because the brighter your light shines, the other people, the unconscious ones, have a choice to heal themselves as well and match that brightness, or to run away from it. Because in the face of that light, they start to see themselves as well, and then they have that free will choice. Shall I heal myself or not? the final part of Kelly's question was, well, how will your actions be different? And I think we've talked about that a little bit, that your actions will be conscious, that you will be able, and they'll be more in alignment with your soul's truth, your soul's purpose. And you will be, it's the difference between, you know, life on this planet can feel like a roller coaster ride, okay? But the more you awaken and become a master of this reality, it's much smoother, right? Because you can self-correct before you go too far out of alignment. Okay, so I
have a comment on that.
Sure.
Yeah, and the key word that you said there, that you used there, was you. And being that a lot of people look to other people to put them in a place of awakenment.
Very good point, Corey. Yes, there are lots of gurus and teachers out there that will say, you know, I will give you an activation, you know, or join this meditation and you will be downloaded with these keys of awakening. And I'm not going to say there's nothing in it, but I'm going to say it's missing a key part of self-responsibility in a way, because we are all meant to be conscious creators, right? Nobody else is meant to do it for us. We're meant to do it for ourselves, and we're not meant to do it for anybody else either, in my opinion. So yes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's your journey is your journey. You can have guides along the way that help guide you, and maybe like your book, or like, you know, people teach your courses, other people's courses, other people's books and teachings. But it's up to you. Like, your book is really great and people buy it. It's not like the old term shelf help. You know, if it's on the shelf, it isn't going to help you. You have to be active. It's an active source that
and
that
I would
you
say
need to follow.
steer clear of any teacher that tells you that they're going to do it for you, or any
Oh,
healer that tells you that they're going to do it for you.
yeah.
Because I mean,
It's really,
they might be able to catalyze some shifts and changes within your energy field, but ultimately it's up to you that you accept that, you know, and that you're the one that's ultimately makes the changes in your energy system.
yeah, the light's got to come on within you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I read a book once about something very similar to what we were talking about, and talking about power, like the spiritual power to create miracles, in essence, if you want to call it that. And the gentleman was saying that we all have that power. We come into the world with that power. It's just hidden. And then we spend our whole life looking to, like, we get a veil put over our eyes, because as we come into this world, if we came in with full awareness of spirit and full cognizance of how to use that power, well, life wouldn't be what we're looking to do
Well,
here, which is
what's the point
experience
of
it.
that, right?
Yeah,
You kind of that's how you learn, is
yeah,
by making the choices and having them. If you knew it all, why?
yeah.
That's the experience that we have when we're outside of a plane reality, right? When we're as pure spirit, we're in the oneness, and we have a wider perspective and more information, and we don't have the same veil.
And then you spend your whole life trying to uncover this, and some people call it, you know, searching for God, because everybody's searching for God. There's that old Buddhist talk about, you know, that adage about the man going out and looking for God,
Yes,
and
and actually,
well, it was within him the whole time.
yes. And actually, Corey, there was a second question that I wanted to link in. And I think the lady who put the question, posted the question, is watching. I think I saw her name, Tracy.
Yeah.
And she said, can you talk about God, religion, and spirit, and what is true and what is myth? And so let's try and weave that question in a little bit.
Well, okay, let me just, Bridie has one more comment or question. Would you agree that actions would align with love and compassion, even if that is saying no to truths or requests of others? There will be an underlying action of love and compassion for yourself and uh, ultimately them as well, also.
Yes, and
Definitely.
so absolutely I would. And I would also say that love doesn't always, is not necessarily always experienced. You could take a loving action. Let's try and think of an example. Um, it, I mean, I guess the classic example is talking about codependence. If somebody's taking drugs, or the most loving thing that you might do for that person, a lot of parents fund the rent and the car, for example. Let's take the example of someone who's taking drugs and the parents are trying to help them get off drugs, but they are funding their lifestyle because they don't want to see them on the streets. And they think that that's love, but actually it's enabling that person to continue harming themselves. So a loving reaction could be to cut them off so that they see the consequences of their actions. All right. And that person at the time might not experience it as love, but it might be for their greatest and highest good. So yes, an awakened human, you see everything as it is, and you accept everything as it is. And so, because a lot of time in human relationships, there's a pretense going on. People are not being completely real and completely authentic. They are pretending. And so an awakened human wouldn't pretend, wouldn't enable, wouldn't help somebody to continue with their own lies about themselves.
Well, when we use the term awakened, isn't it more awakening?
Yeah,
Because it's not about a destination; it's
yeah,
more about the journey,
yeah.
and you can never be completely awake. I mean, even if you look back at some of the spiritual leaders and masters, even like Jesus Christ, Buddha, all those, they all had questions. No matter how far they went, they always still had questions. There was always still a
Yeah.
certain amount of imperfection there that they had to go through.
And in a way, the word isn't imperfection, but it's constant expansion. We're part of a constantly expanding universe, and we are infinite beings. And so there's always the next adventure, always the next expansion, always the next experience. So exactly, there's no ultimate
Yeah.
nirvana that we would reach. So
Always the next slap in the face, like.
back to Tracy's question. So can you talk about God, religion, and spirit, and what's true and what is myth? So I'm trying to think about how to answer this. The first thing I would say, everybody has their own direct personal relationship with source energy and their own concept of what that is. Okay, we can call it God, source energy, supreme being, cosmic consciousness. There's different names that we use for this, but I would say that ultimately every human has their own, can have their own direct relationship with God, and does have it. So there's I don't agree with any one human trying to impose their concept of God on another, because we all have our own direct connection and relationship with God. And so one of the problems with religions is that they have a prescriptive view on what God is, and most of them, and they will tell you what you should believe about God. And some of them have an intermediary that you have to go through to talk to God. So you don't even talk to God directly, you have to go to the priest, for example. And so in what I'm teaching in helping you open your psychic abilities, your spiritual gifts, one of the things that does for you is it allows you to communicate with source energy, with God, directly. Get your own information from your divine source directly, without anyone else imposing anything upon you. Most religions, everyone is merging energy under a common belief. And therefore, most people are dialing down their own energy in order to belong to the group. And so they are sort of cutting off a little bit of themselves in order to belong to the group. So, and then let's see what else your question says. What's truth and what's myth? Every single human has their own unique perception of reality and their own version of what's true for them and what's correct for them. So again, there's not one ultimate truth that we must, preach and get everybody to believe. I can have a very different belief system than you, and it's right for me, and it's right for my growth and my expansion, for example. And so, I guess any belief you hold is true for you for as long as you hold it, until at some point you grow beyond that belief and you replace it with another set of beliefs. I hope that answers your question. So I guess what I'm advocating is every person's on their own unique journey, and every person has their own unique relationship with God, and every person has their own unique perspective. And another way of explaining that is to say, God or source energy, the great all that is of the infinite universe, you're a spark of that divine consciousness, right? You're an aspect of it. So you have, it's like, this is probably not the best analogy, but imagine a jigsaw puzzle, and that God was the entire jigsaw puzzle, and you were one of the pieces in the jigsaw puzzle, right? And you're at this end of the jigsaw puzzle. You probably can't even see what's at that end of the jigsaw puzzle. You can only see what's immediately around you, and that informs your perspective and your concept of reality. And that's exactly what it needs to be for you, given you're that piece of the jigsaw puzzle over there. And every other piece of the jigsaw puzzle, which could be every other human being on this planet, we could say, they have their own unique perspective and vantage point as well. And this is God creating through humans, and God experiencing itself through all of these different perspectives and these different truths. I hope that helps, Tracy. If you're still there, you can comment on the answer if you want.
Well, that's about it for this week's show, Dr. Leslie.
I've enjoyed today's show.
Yeah, so have I.
Shame that we are going. Now, I had another request from a lady who wants to talk about spirit animals and how to identify your spirit animals. So we might do that next week, but I'll put out a call for some suggestions anyway. All right, well, you've been listening to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey, and we're here every Tuesday from 7 to 8 Pacific time, broadcasting on 101.7 FM, live streaming on Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group and my YouTube channel. And catch all the old podcasts on drlesliephillips.com.
And we'll see you all next week. Take care.
Yeah.